Imagine this. A vacation spot millions love, flocking there every year, but its closest neighbor puts out this huge warning saying, do not travel. Makes you wonder, what's the real story here? Okay, so here's the backdrop. On August 12th, 2025, the U.S. State Department, they dropped a pretty big update to their Mexico travel advisory.
Yeah, it wasn't just a small change.
No, exactly. They added a nationwide Level 2 summary advisory, and the key part, a terrorism risk indicator for the whole country.
For all of Mexico, yeah.
On top of that, 6 specific states got hit with the do not travel label. We're talking extreme violence, links to terrorist groups, cartels, you name it.
Very strong warning.
It is. But then you look at the other side. Mexico was what, the second most visited country in the world in 2023?
Tens of millions of tourists.
Right. Tens of millions every year, and most of them have, totally fine, trouble-free trips. So you get this really strange situation, this tension between the official government warnings and what so many travelers actually experience.
Definitely a disconnect there, or at least it's like it.
So what does all this mean for you if you're thinking about a trip? Today, we're going to dive deep into the sources you sent us. We'll unpack these advisories, try to get a sense of the reality on the ground.
And hopefully equip you with what you need to make smart decisions about your safety.
Exactly. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first, let's just quickly break down how the U.S. State Department does these advisories. It's a 4-level system.
Right.
Level 1 is basically be aware, exercise normal precautions. Level 2 is be more careful, exercise increased caution.
Yeah.
It's pretty common worldwide.
Okay.
Level 3 is think twice, reconsider travel. And then level 4, that's the big one, do not travel.
And that August 12th update, that was huge because it put the entire country at a baseline level 2.
That's right.
With those specific risks added.
Yeah.
Terrorism, crime, kidnapping, nationwide. What does adding a terrorism risk indicator across the board actually mean, practically speaking? How big of a change is that?
Well, it's significant. It means the U.S. government now sees, or at least warns about, a potential for terrorism-related stuff pretty much anywhere in Mexico, not just isolated spots.
To a broader perceived risk.
Exactly. Even if actual incidents targeting tourists are, extremely rare, it represents a shift in their overall assessment of the threat level for the country.
Got it. And then you have those 6 states at level 4 that do not travel ones.
Yes. Colima, Guerrero, Michoacán, Sinaloa, Tamaulipas, and Zacatecas.
And the reasons cited are pretty serious. Violence linked to terrorist groups, cartels, gangs.
And a high risk of kidnapping that's explicitly mentioned.
One thing that really stood out to me from the sources was the government saying it has limited ability to help U.S. citizens in those level 4 states. What does that actually translate to if you're in trouble?
It means exactly what it sounds like, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If you have an emergency, crime happens, a medical issue, the U.S. government might not be able to get consular help to you quickly, or maybe even at all in some parts.
Why? Because it's too dangerous for their own staff.
Precisely. The risks to their own personnel are too high in those areas. That's why they have such strict rules for their employees.
Like in Guerrero, you mentioned.
Yeah, Guerrero is a good example. It includes places people know, like Acapulco, Ixtapa, Zihuatanejo. But U.S. government employees, they are flat out forbidden from traveling anywhere in that state.
Wow. Any area, even the tourist spots.
Even the tourist spots. And look at Sinaloa travel to Mazatlan or Los Mochis is basically restricted to arriving by air or sea and only sticking to very specific limited zones.
That really underlines the seriousness from their perspective.
It does.
And we should mention, even states at level 3, like Jalisco or Guanajuato, come with a reconsider travel warning. Risks there include things like clashes between criminal groups, targeted violence.
Right. It's not just the level 4 states with issues.
And even the big tourist hubs, Mexico City, Cancun, Tulum, down in Quintana Roo, they're usually at level 2, exercise increased caution, still citing crime, and now that terrorism indicator.
So caution is advised pretty much everywhere according to the official guidance.
And the crucial takeaway here, stressed in the sources, is that U.S. citizens traveling in Mexico should follow the same restrictions as U.S. government employees.
That's a really important point.
So what are some of those key restrictions people absolutely need to keep in mind?
Okay, a few big ones. No traveling between cities after dark, period.
After dark, okay.
For getting around, you absolutely need to use dispatched vehicles. Think regulated taxi stands or ride-sharing apps like Uber or Cabify.
So no flagging down a random taxi on the street.
Definitely not recommended, explicitly advised against. And they also strongly advise against traveling alone, especially if you're going into more remote areas.
These aren't just light suggestions, are they?
No, they're based on the government's risk assessment. They reflect where they believe the dangers are highest.
Okay, so that's the official picture. Warnings, restrictions, sounds pretty grim in places.
It can, yeah.
But then, how do we square that with the millions, literally tens of millions, who go every year and have amazing, safe trips? What's the feeling on the ground?
Right, that's where you get this divergence. We need to look beyond just the advisories. Many sources, many travelers, and locals too, feel that the U.S. media, well, they tend to blow the dangers out of proportion for tourists.
You mean like focusing on isolated incidents?
Exactly. Leading to what some people call fear-mongering or just an unfair picture of the country. There's even discussion in some sources about potential bias, maybe treating certain countries differently in warnings.
Interesting point. And the sheer numbers back up the counter-narrative, don't they? Second most visited country in 2023.
Absolutely. It's not a niche destination. It's massive. And the vast majority of those trips, they are trouble-free. That volume really speaks for itself.
So why are so many popular spots generally considered safe, despite the broader warnings?
Well, it seems largely strategic. Think about places like Mexico City, Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, San Miguel de Allende, Oaxaca. They're consistently described as safe, relatively speaking. And the reason, tourist safety is a huge priority for the Mexican government. Tourism is, what, nearly 9% of their GDP?
Wow, that's significant.
It is. So you often see a much higher police presence, more security efforts focused specifically on those tourist zones. It's an economic necessity for them.
Makes sense. Protect the golden goose, so to speak. But what about the cartels? That's what people worry about. How does that actually impact tourists?
It's definitely complex. The sources stress that most of the really bad violence you hear about, that's largely fighting between the criminal groups themselves. It's not usually aimed at tourists.
Okay.
And here's a fascinating, if maybe uncomfortable point from some sources. They suggest Western tourists are almost like a protected class for the cartels.
Protected. How so?
It sounds strange, but it comes down to money. Tourism brings in huge amounts of cash directly and indirectly. If tourists start feeling unsafe and stop coming, that impacts everyone's bottom line, including the cartels who profit from various activities in those areas.
So messing with tourists is bad for business, essentially.
In a twisted way, yes. The economic incentive might actually discourage violence against tourists in many popular areas because it keeps the money flowing.
So it's less about goodwill and more about economics.
Seems that way, according to these analyses. But you have to be realistic. While it's exceptionally rare, there have been those awful, tragic cases where tourists got caught in the crossfire.
Like that shooting in Tulum you mentioned.
Exactly. A horrible incident in 2021, 2 foreign women killed accidentally. But the sources also make another critical point. A lot of the cartel presence in tourist areas is tied to tourists wanting to buy drugs.
Ah, the demand side.
Right. If you actively avoid the drug scene, steer clear of trying to buy anything illegal, you dramatically reduce your risk exposure. It's about making sensible choices.
Makes sense. Okay, moving beyond cartels, what about police corruption? The sources mention that as a common hassle.
Yeah, that comes up a lot. Many travelers say they're actually more likely to run into issues with a local police officer trying to get a bribe, the infamous mordida, than they are to encounter direct cartel violence.
What kind of situations?
Oh, maybe being pulled over for a supposed traffic violation that didn't really happen or some minor infraction. Then comes a sort of subtle negotiation for a bribe, usually not a huge amount, maybe 200 to 500 pesos, like 10 to 25 US dollars, to make the problem go away. It's definitely something to be aware of.
Okay, let's look at some numbers quickly because context is key. Mexico hit a high for homicides in 2020, right? Over 17,000.
Yes, but again, the sources consistently say most of those deaths are related to fights between the cartels.
So how do those numbers stack up against, say, places in the U.S.?
It's pretty revealing when you look at specific tourist areas. Take Yucatan State, where places like Mérida are. The murder rate there is incredibly low, like 2 per 100,000 people.
2 per 100,000, that's really low.
It is. Comparable to some pretty safe-feeling smaller cities in the U.S., like Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, or Evansville, Indiana.
Wow. And Mexico City, huge city.
Massive. Second largest on the planet, I think. Its murder rate is around 8 per 100,000, which puts it roughly on par with Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay. And if we compare that to some older stats from U.S. cities, like from 2009, Atlanta had 325 murders, Baltimore 298, Detroit 447, Houston 462.
Right. So when you look at the specific comparisons, the argument that some popular parts of Mexico are actually safer than many U.S. cities, well, it holds some water statistically.
And we can't ignore the connection that something like 90% of illicit drugs coming into the U.S. pass through Mexico.
Absolutely. The U.S. demand for drugs undeniably fuels the cartel activity and the violence that comes with it. It highlights that this is a shared problem, really.
A very complex picture. So given all this, the warnings, the reality, the stats, what's the practical advice? What's the blueprint for staying safer?
The golden rule, repeated in the sources, is pretty straightforward. Take responsibility for your own safety and use common sense. Basically, if you wouldn't do it back home, don't do it in Mexico.
Solid advice anywhere. Okay, so what about before you even leave?
Preparation is key. First, stay informed. Keep checking the State Department's travel advisory website. Things can change state by state.
Good point.
Second, enroll in STEP, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It helps the embassy contact you in an emergency and sends you alerts.
Okay, step, got it.
And this one's crucial. Get comprehensive travel insurance. Seriously. Make sure it covers medical treatment, hospitalization, and especially emergency medical evacuation.
Why is that so important?
Because many hospitals in Mexico might not accept your U.S. insurance directly. They often want payment up front, in cash. Good insurance is vital.
Right, upfront payment. That could be a huge problem. And packing.
Pack smart. Leave the expensive jewelry, flashy watches, anything that screams money at home. Be aware of customs rules, too. Generally, only one laptop, one phone, one tablet or camera allowed duty-free. Don't overdo the electronics.
Okay, so that's before you go. What about while you're actually there? General awareness.
Absolutely. Number one, trust your instincts. If a place or a situation feels wrong, feels off, just leave. Don't second-guess your gut.
Good advice.
Stick mostly to the main tourist areas. They generally do have better security, as we discussed. And this is a big one. Avoid illegal stuff. Don't go looking for drugs. Don't engage in anything illicit. That's where the risk skyrockets.
Seems obvious, but worth repeating.
Definitely. And just general mindful behavior. Don't flash cash or expensive gadgets around. One source put it bluntly, looking like you are balling out of control will get you robbed.
Okay, fair enough. Anything else on behavior?
Yeah, try to learn at least a few basic Spanish phrases. It really can help with safety, navigating situations, and showing respect.
Good point. And being culturally sensitive.
Huge. The sources mention this, try not to come across as arrogant or demanding. That whole entitled American stereotype doesn't do you any favors. Being polite and respectful goes a long way.
Okay, let's talk about getting around. Transportation tips.
We touched on some. Avoid driving or taking buses between cities after dark. Stick to daytime travel for longer distances.
Right.
Use trusted transport. Uber, Cabify, taxis arranged by your hotel. Again, avoid hailing random cabs on the street.
And if you rent a car.
Stick to the main toll roads, the carreteras de cuotas. They're generally better maintained and safer, more patrolled. Avoid the libre or free roads, especially in rural areas. And if you encounter a checkpoint, whether it looks official or not, cooperate. Don't argue, just be calm and comply.
Okay. Financial safety. Carrying cash. Using ATMs.
Don't carry large amounts of cash. Use a money belt if it makes you feel more secure. For ATMs, definitely use ones located inside a bank or a major mall. Avoid standalone machines on the street, higher risk of skimming devices.
Good tip. What about scams?
Be aware of a couple of nasty ones. Virtual kidnapping is where criminals call your family back home, claim they've kidnapped you, even though you're perfectly fine, and demand ransom. Make sure your family knows how to verify your safety.
Why? That's scary.
And express kidnappings. These are often linked to fake taxis. They force you to go to ATMs and withdraw money. Another reason to use reputable transport.
Okay, lots to keep in mind there. Finally, health and well-being.
Basic stuff, mostly. Drink bottled water only. Avoid ice in drinks unless you're sure it's made from purified water.
The classic advice.
Yep. Be moderate with alcohol. And importantly, do not accept drinks from strangers. There's a risk of contaminated, unregulated alcohol or drinks being drugged.
Right. And medication.
Be super cautious buying medication. Counterfeit drugs are a serious problem, and some have even been found laced with fentanyl. Stick to reputable pharmacies if you absolutely need something.
Okay, that's a really comprehensive list of precautions.
It's all about layering defenses, using common sense at every step.
So wrapping this up, Mexico. It's beautiful, it's vibrant, the culture is amazing. But the safety situation is, well, it's complicated.
Definitely complex.
You have these clear, sometimes stark warnings from the U.S. government highlighting real risks, especially from organized crime in certain areas.
But then you have the reality that the vast majority of tourists, millions of them, have fantastic trouble-free trips.
Especially if they stick to well-traveled areas, avoid risky behavior, and just, use their heads.
Exactly. It really underscores that dual reality we talked about. The official risks are there, documented. But the lived experience for most visitors is overwhelmingly positive. It's about navigating that space wisely.
So knowing all this, the official warnings, the on-the-ground experiences, the safety tips, it leads to a final thought for you, our listener. Given this nuanced reality, where warnings paint one picture and millions travel safely painting another, what specific actions will you prioritize to make sure your next international trip, whether it's to Mexico or somewhere else, is both an amazing experience and a safe one?